The Tunguska event. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, a massive explosion occurred in the skies over the remote Tunguska region in Siberia, Russia. A fireball, brighter than the sun, streaked across the sky, followed by a powerful blast that flattened over 800 square miles of forest, uprooting trees and causing shockwaves felt hundreds of miles away. Windows shattered and people were knocked off their feet. Despite the explosion's immense power, no impact crater was found. For decades, scientists debated what caused the Tunguska event. Most now believe it was a meteoroid or comet that exploded in the atmosphere, releasing the energy equivalent to about 10 to 15 megatons of TNT. The Tunguska event remains the largest impact event on Earth in recorded history, a stark reminder of the potential hazards from space. The Great Molasses Flood. On January 15, 1919, residents of Boston's North End experienced a disaster unlike any other. A massive storage tank filled with 2.3 million gallons of molasses suddenly burst, releasing a wave of thick, sticky syrup that rushed through the streets at 35 miles per hour. The wave, some 25 feet high, destroyed buildings, crushed vehicles, and trapped people and animals in its path. The flood killed 21 people and injured 150 more. Cleanup efforts took weeks, and the scent of molasses lingered in the city for months. Investigations later revealed that the tank was poorly constructed and had been leaking for some time. The tragedy led to stricter building regulations and remains a strange but sobering chapter in Boston's history. The Dancing Plague of 1518. In July 1518, the city of Strasbourg, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, was struck by a bizarre and unexplained phenomenon known as the Dancing Plague. It began when a woman named Frau Trophea stepped into the street and started dancing uncontrollably. Within days, dozens of people joined her, dancing non-stop without rest. The crowd grew to around 400 dancers, and the phenomenon lasted for over a month. Many of the dancers collapsed from exhaustion, and some reportedly died from heart attacks or strokes. Authorities, believing the dancers would recover if they danced it out, even hired musicians and built a stage. However, this only seemed to make the situation worse. Historians believe the cause may have been a form of mass hysteria triggered by stress and fear, or possibly ergot poisoning from contaminated rye. To this day, the true cause of the Dancing Plague remains a mystery. The Night the Sky Turned Red. On September 1 𝘀𝘁cie𝗿𝗶𝗲𝗀, 1859, the Earth experienced the most powerful geomagnetic storm ever recorded, known as the Carrington event. British astronomer Richard Carrington was observing the sun when he noticed a sudden, intense burst of light, what we now know as a solar flare. Hours later, the effects reached Earth. Auroras, normally visible only near the poles, lit up skies as far south as the Caribbean. The lights were so bright that people in New England could read newspapers at night. Telegraph systems across Europe and North America failed, sparking fires and giving operators electric shocks. Some telegraphs continued to work even after being disconnected from their power supplies, powered solely by the geomagnetic currents. If a similar event were to happen today, it could disrupt global communication systems, power grids, and satellites, making the Carrington event a sobering reminder of our vulnerability to space weather. The blackout that changed New York. On the evening of July 13, 1977, New York City was plunged into darkness when a lightning strike caused a cascade of electrical failures, triggering a massive blackout that lasted 25 hours. The entire city was without power, and what followed was chaos. Looting, arson, and vandalism erupted across neighborhoods. Over 1,600 stores were damaged, and more than 1,000 fires were set. Unlike the city's previous blackout in 1965, which was relatively calm, the 1977 blackout exposed the deep social tensions of the time. Over 3,700 people were arrested in a single night, and the damages ran into the millions. Despite the chaos, the event led to significant changes in the city's approach to emergency management and infrastructure security, serving as a turning point in how cities prepare for large-scale crises. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops. In March 1918, the USS Cyclops, a massive U.S. Navy cargo ship, set sail from Barbados to Baltimore, carrying over 300 crew and passengers, along with 10,000 tons of manganese ore. Without sending any distress signals or signs of trouble, the ship vanished in the Bermuda Triangle region. It was never seen again. Despite extensive searches, no wreckage or debris was ever found. The disappearance remains one of the greatest mysteries in maritime history. Speculations ranged from sudden storms and rogue waves to sabotage or structural failure. The loss of the USS Cyclops is still unsolved, fueling many theories about the mysterious and treacherous waters of the Bermuda Triangle. The miracle of the sun. On October 13, 1917, tens of thousands of people gathered in the small town of Fatima, Portugal, in response to three children's claims that the Virgin Mary had promised a miracle. As they waited in a rain-soaked field, something extraordinary occurred. The heavy clouds broke, and the sun appeared as a spinning disk in the sky, casting multicolored lights and seeming to zigzag and dance. Witnesses reported that the sun seemed to plunge toward Earth before returning to its place. The ground, soaked moments before, was suddenly dry. This event, now known as the miracle of the sun, was witnessed by believers and skeptics alike, including journalists and photographers. While skeptics argue it could have been a mass optical illusion or a natural atmospheric phenomenon, the event remains one of the most famous unexplained occurrences in modern religious history. The ghost ship Mary Celeste. On December 5, 1872, the British brigantine Dei Gratia spotted an abandoned ship drifting in the Atlantic Ocean near the Azores Islands. It was the Mary Celeste, an American merchant ship that had left New York for Genoa 8 days earlier. The ship was in good condition, with its cargo intact, but the crew was nowhere to be found. The lifeboat was missing, and there were signs that it had been lowered hastily. Food and water supplies were ample, and the captain's log showed no sign of distress. Despite extensive investigations and countless theories, ranging from mutiny and piracy to a sudden seaquake or a waterspout, no trace of the crew was ever found. The Mary Celeste remains one of the most enduring maritime mysteries, forever labeled a ghost ship. The Great Emu War. In late 1932, Australia found itself in an unexpected conflict with a formidable enemy, emus. After World War I, many Australian soldiers were given farmland to settle, but when thousands of emus migrated inland during the dry season, they invaded the wheat fields of Western Australia, causing widespread damage. Farmers sought help, and the military responded with soldiers armed with machine guns. For weeks, they tried to curb the emu population, but the birds were remarkably fast and difficult to herd. The emus would scatter in all directions, making it nearly impossible to take them down effectively. After expending thousands of rounds of ammunition and only managing to kill a small number of the birds, the soldiers withdrew, conceding defeat. The Great Emu War became a humorous yet humbling chapter in Australian history, illustrating the unpredictable challenges of nature.